There we go.
Okay. Okay, guys, this is my first YouTube video, so please bear with me. This is my personal top 10 list of the best underrated horror films out there. I know that there are thousands of these, so again, bear with me. The first, Vampire the movie. More of a documentary than actually a horror film. For those of you who don't know who Vampira is, she was the first horror hostess long before Elvira or any of those other jackoffs that are out there. So, great movie. Lot of interviews with Mila Normie, aka Vampira, as well as Jerry Only from the Misfits, Lloyd Kaufman of Trauma Entertainment. So if you guys are into that, great movie. Check it out. At number 9, Sharktopus. I know that this is kind of a newer one. Most of you have probably seen it on the Sci-Fi Channel. For those of you who haven't, it's done by Roger Corman. Roger Corman, one of the greatest B horror film directors of all time, created Piranha, Humanoids from the Deep. Check it out. Great scenes. One of my personal favorite movies, and again, very underrated, Flesh for the Beast. If you're a fan of the Euro Gothic horror film, I suggest checking it out. It's absolutely brutal, a lot of nudity, extreme amount of gore, and it's got a great score for heavy metal fans by the one and only Buckethead. It's got zombies, demons, boobs, everything. It's great. This one has topped a lot of the top gore fest lists. So if you're a fan of supreme gore, check this out. It's very realistic. It's called August Underground's Mortem. It's part of a trilogy. It's number 2 in the trilogy. Sick as hell, absolutely disgusting. Actually, it took me 2 times to actually watch it because of how grotesque it was. It's done on film rather than digital, so it's absolutely disturbing because of how realistic it is. Probably the most frightening scene is actually where they've kidnapped this couple, they raped the girlfriend, and they forced the guy to cut off his own genitals with a pair of mustache scissors and then rape her with the severed organ. It's absolutely disgusting, so again, not for everybody's taste. Next up, we talked about Vampire. We're going to go with Elvira's Haunted Hills. Great cross between both comedy and horror. Stars, obviously, Elvira, as well as a few other cameos that aren't really overly mentionable. Really can't say much on the horror factor of it because it's not overly gory or nudity. A lot of sexual undertones, which is the same for any Elvira movie or cast. So, this one, it's on my list, but it's a give or take. Next up, The Dead Matter. Probably one of the best gothic vampire films to come out in the last 10 years. Unfortunately, though, it was a Hot Topic only exclusive. But for $20, you actually ended up with a 3-disc set. You got the movie, the soundtrack, and because it was made by a Midnight Syndicate, who is a gothic orchestra band, if you guys are familiar with them or not. Great movie, starring plenty of great people. Tom Savini's in it, as well as some other major horror actors. If you're a fan of the gothic horror, or even just vampire movies in general, check it out. Oh, and it's also got zombies and witchcraft, so you can't go wrong there. Next up, Dee Snider's Strangeland. The thing with this one that makes it onto my list is it's garnered more towards a slasher film, but the thing with this is nobody actually dies. So you're kind of probably asking yourself, why is this on your list then? Well, as you can tell from the cover, it's pretty sick. Dee Snider not only wrote, directed, produced this movie, he also stars as the main antagonist, Captain Howdy, or Carlton Hendricks, depending if you've seen the film, who is extremely into primal rituals and body modification. He's to the point where he has gone completely psychotic and begins capturing other people and literally torturing them through his rituals. Extremely dark, very twisted, and a great movie. Check it out. Next up, Sisters of Death. This is probably one of the older ones in my collection of underrated horror films. Sisters of Death is a great story of witchcraft and devil worship. Made back in the 70s, so you can already kind of guess that's one of those grindhouse exploitation films. Lots and lots of nudity, and heavy on the gore. Unfortunately, the plot isn't that great, but it's very memorable on certain kill sequences. I'm not going to ruin it for you guys, so go check this one out too. Now we're down to the last two, guys. So for number 2, a great film from Japan. Unfortunately, it's very underrated here in the States. If you're a fan of comic books or manga, I suggest reading the manga first. The story and the movie is called Goth. It's really about 2 kids who have an obsession with death, murder, and all things macabre. You've got a guy in this who is going around killing people and cutting off their hands and then posing them in these really elegant fashions to make the deaths look extremely beautiful. Unfortunately, though, the 2 kids, one of them is so obsessed with it, he actually wants a pair of hands himself, which actually is the female main character. So, again, I'm not going to ruin the whole story for you. Goth, probably one of the best Japanese films, so if you guys are a fan of like the Ringu or the Ju-on films, I suggest checking this one out. Finally, this is probably the one that nobody besides me has heard of, which is kind of sad. This movie has demons, walking scarecrows, suicide, genocide, you name it, it's got everything in it. Very great film called Savage Harvest 2 October Blood. I actually picked this up at a horror convention here in New England. For those of you who do know me, I'm from New Hampshire. Those of you who don't, well, sucks to be you. But I picked this up, and I actually got to meet both the producer slash main actor, as well as the director, Jason Christ. Yes, his name actually is Jason Christ. Savage Harvest 2 is obviously the sequel to the first Savage Harvest. The best thing about this, in my opinion, is it's not over the top for a low-budget film, which unfortunately every one of them is. The film is absolutely great. It's done right. And if you've seen the first one, this one picks up about 10 years from where the first one ended. The only thing that I would like to see in this that didn't happen is I would have liked to have seen a little more of the demons. Unfortunately, you only see a very brief exponential amount of them. All in all, though, great film. So that's my list. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and please comment if I forgot anything, or if you liked the video, hated it, whatever, just let me know what you think. Thanks again. See you next time.